Check. All right, a lot of you guys know how to do some satin shading, and I am nowhere near the best at this. And I've seen some folks mention the remove tool. And so this is kind of now my workflow with satin shading. I'm kind of using the Bangini method. There's a link to his file that I pretty much always start off with. And throw my satellite image into it, whichever one I've adjusted to match the hill shade. And in the past, I've just basically used the clone stamp tool. So just as kind of a very basic for folks who are just getting started, your two big tools that you're going to want to use here are the clone stamp tool, which you press S, it'll bring it up, and the remove tool, which I had to add both of these in this version of Photoshop to this toolbar, which is the J. And both of these kind of accomplish the same purpose, and they do it in different ways. And as you use them both, you'll kind of learn what works where and how to kind of use them at the same time. And so the cool thing is you can press S and it'll bring clone stamp up, and you can press J and it will bring up your remove tool. And so you can go back and forth between them pretty easily. The other thing that's really good to know that it took me a long time to figure out, I saw Bangini doing it on one of his videos. I was like, how is he doing that? Is changing the brush size very quickly. All you have to do is press Alt and right click, and you can go back and forth and it can change your brush size. So what I've learned is things that kind of stick out very clearly, kind of like this bunker here, and even this tree, even if they are crossing over two different textures or different looks, the remove tool works really well with those. So watch, if I just go on here and just grab that bunker there, it'll remove it and it'll probably look really good. Let's see what happens. Yep, see that? And then like this, there's something sticking here in the fairway, maybe a card or something. Remove it. It'll pretty much look good. And this one is kind of crossing from rough into fairway. Usually it will actually pick up kind of with the lines, and it will come out looking like it should. Let's see if it does on this one. See, it did pretty good. And so then what I'll do is I'll do that for around an area. Then I'll press S to kind of go to clone stamp. If there's any spots that maybe need a little bit of touching up, I'll just kind of clone stamp those to make them fade in a little bit more. This is see, it's not perfect, so it might be better, something like that. And sometimes I'll bring in my Inkscape shapes and all that kind of stuff. Now, the cool thing is with this remove tool, sometimes you can grab large pieces that span over a lot of different spots, and it will actually do a pretty good job of getting a bunch at the same time, which is really efficient if you can. So I'm going to try this. I hadn't even tried this. Let's try it. I'm going to go this way down the cart path. I'm going to hit all of these trees. And even if it's not perfect, it might be something better and easier to work with. I've knocked out large portions every once in a while by doing this. Let's just go to here. Because what happens is if you get a more like a area that has a bunch of other stuff around it, it's harder because it starts to pick up those things when it's trying to fill the gaps. Let's just see what happens here. So I'm going to do this and see how it works. That did not do that good of a job, as you can see here, but it actually gave something pretty good to work with. You can see it pulled kind of from the fairway into the rough area, so I'm actually not going to use that. But if I were to do, let's just say if I did this area, and it seems like every course is just the picture and the satellite's a little different. It picks up some better than others. But I love using it for bunkers, and it's pretty good even with carp. See, now that worked pretty good. If I notice here that maybe this little rough area is a little lighter than I want it, then I can just kind of come back and kind of give, but I like to have a little bit of difference, so I can just come back and do that. If I wanted to try, the remove tool actually works pretty good as well for cart paths. As long as, like, if you've cleared kind of trees, but you still have a cart path there, it'll actually do a pretty good job of clearing cart paths. Sometimes it leaves a little bit of the path on the edge, but it actually, as you'll see here, it does a pretty good job. That brought in some things you don't necessarily want, and sometimes it's not. Oops. I can cancel that. Sometimes it's not worth doing, but a lot of times it's like using them together is a really good tool. So let's go to these bunkers right here. So these would be a perfect thing to use J remove tool and just grab them or highlight them, kind of paint over them. And let's see how this does. A lot of times it'll fade the fairway into the bunkers in these areas pretty well as well. All right, see that's picked up, and I've noticed this with this course. I've never seen it with another course. Is it keeps picking up some yellows. Not necessarily horrible. It may give it some good character. I don't know. But I've kind of been going back just in those little areas, giving a little more like that. But we'll see kind of how that looks later. Same thing over here. See, this is actually going almost into this kind of deep rough and the fairway. So let's see what happens with this one. Not too bad. There's a little extra fairway there. So I'll press S to go back to my clone stamp. You know, Alt sample kind of chooses your sample area, and I can just kind of go back in and just do a little bit like that. But I've done a lot of this course using both of these. Let's go, here's another one, for example. If I wanted to bring in my remove tool, this one may work pretty good. It may pull in some of the tree, but let's see. Not too bad. There's that yellow. See, these bunkers every time are pulling in this this kind of yellowy, and it's like with the bunkers every time, and that's it. I'm not exactly sure why, but I can come back in and just do a little bit of that to give it a little, yeah. So let's go and be crazy here and do a whole section. So this probably will not turn out well, but sometimes you can do it and it turns out better than you think, and it's something you can work with. But let's try it. Yeah, there's a tee box, so this is not going to be good because there's way too much hidden under these trees. But this gives you an example of what it can do. This will, I missed some little black spots there that you need to hit. See, that looked really bad. But either way, for the kind of the one-off things like this, sometimes it's easy. Probably the best place is if I don't have to deal with clone stamping some fairway, some rough in these kind of standalone spots like this. It works the best. That's my best probably use for this. But like if you do parking lots, you can pull cars out. People sitting on a fairway, you can just click them real quick and they go away. So that's not too bad. That actually probably will look okay on a sat shade. Like this tree right here will definitely be fine. Boom, just like that. So encouragement to use this remove tool that I think is fairly new in Photoshop, along with your clone stamping. Like this house here, if I was wanting to get rid of this house and maybe this tree, this one might work. Okay, this is kind of off the course, so it probably is not even seen, but it's really good at pulling things that are high contrast to the background. Not too bad. And then you can come in with your clone stamp and just clean it up just a little bit. There you go.